Ladies and gents, welcome to CG Reaction, and this is the insane ways USA tried to take out Fidel Castro by the channel The Infographic Show. I saw the video about Fidel Castro from Salmonella Academy, how he loved ice cream. It was just ridiculous. In that, I learned that CIA, USA tried to kill Fidel Castro so many times, but they couldn't do it. He died of an old age. So it would be awesome to see how they failed here. So yeah, let's watch this one. And remember people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe so I know which type of videos to react to more. Check out the other reaction I did. There's a link in the description with all of my videos. Check out the cards for all the playlists I created, all the reaction I did. Check out the end cards. So let's watch this one.
According to Fidel Castro's former Secret Service chief, the now-deceased dictator survived no less than 634 attempts on his life, many by the American Central Intelligence Agency. From exploding cigars to exploding seashells, what were some of the most creative ways the United States tried to kill Castro? Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Infographic Show. Today, we're taking a look at the U.S.'s most insane attempts to kill Fidel Castro. As a ruler of Cuba from 1961 until 2011, Fidel Castro came to power riding a wave of revolutionary zeal. But while having his roots as an anti-imperialistic revolutionary that fought for the people, upon assuming power, Castro very quickly became as ruthless and authoritarian as any dictator. From stripping away the free
Regardless of what your ideology is, whenever some single entity comes to power, that is always the case. They always become dictator like that.
Freedom of the press, to bragging about jailing tens of thousands of political opponents, Castro became one of the most notorious leaders of the 20th century. Yet it wasn't until Castro began cozying up to the US's archenemy, the Soviet Union, that he wandered into the crosshairs of the US's Central Intelligence Agency, fearful of a global domino effect, where one nation falling into communism would lead to another and so on. The US was also deeply disturbed by the presence of a strong Soviet ally less than 100 miles from its shores. Foreseeing a Cuban crisis scenario, which ironically would come to pass anyways, the US
I think, Cuba is being communist and America is going to become communist. Every other country is going to become communist. That's just for sure. I think the only reason and the biggest reason was that it was allying with Russia. And so they obviously Cuban Missile Crisis, Russia storing their missile into the Cuba so they could easily strike in the USA at the time. So that was the biggest factor, like Cubans are helping Russians. That's the biggest factor since Cuba is extremely close to the USA.
Intelligence Committee made the recommendation that Castro be removed from power by any means necessary. For a decade and a half, U.S. presidents would agree, until the signing of Executive Order 11905 by President Gerald R. Ford in 1976 banned U.S. intelligence agencies.
Is it related to Henry Ford some way? Because that's heavy. One of your biggest industry, I guess, family was also, a president.
From committing political assassinations. Yet for 15 long years prior to Executive Order 11905, it was open season on Castro as far as the U.S. was concerned, even going so far as to enlist the aid of American mafia leaders. So what were some of the craziest ways the CIA tried to kill Castro? Perhaps the most famous plots against Castro was the exploding cigar. Known for his love of cigars, the CIA brainstormed a way to get Castro a case of cigars loaded with small amounts of explosives. Allegedly, during a trip to the United Nations in 1966, a CIA agent was en route to swap a case of explosive cigars.
This is all feel dictatorly moves, man. I mean, this is too flamboyant? Won't people get pissed off like this has to be CIA? Then somebody try to do assassination attempt on somebody, they make it more simplistic so they can blame on somebody else. Like that was on us. There was just some random person who hated Castro, like killing him with a gun or something. So what's wrong with a sniper? I mean, in World War II, people didn't have scopes and there were really marksmen there. Bullseye marksmen who rarely missed for thousands of yards. So with scopes now, they must have some kind of assassins that can just shoot Castro from long distance away and just get out. Like, obviously that was the first thing that you would think. So why did they have to do all this thing? I mean, making the assassination simple is the best way to, to avoid blame on yourself. Like that could be just anybody. That wasn't us.
cigars with real cigars, when at the last minute the operation was canceled for fear of political fallout from Castro's assassination taking place during a visit to the UN.
No
Yet,
shit.
some sources suggest that the exploding cigar ploy was a complete fabrication, purposefully silly and meant to hide more serious attempts on Castro's life. Whatever the case, Castro's security team took the threat extremely seriously, eventually leading them to create the Cohiba cigar brand in order to guarantee the safety of Castro's supply of cigars. When Castro threw out the Batista regime in 1959 and took over the extremely lucrative casinos and hotels, he made more than a few enemies among international mobsters, enemies the CIA was happy to cooperate with against their shared enemy. Shortly after Castro came to power, a CIA agent met with Las Vegas mobster Johnny Roselli, who introduced him to members of the Las Vegas syndicate of Bugsy Siegel fame, offering the mobsters $150,000 or $1.2 million in today's dollars to kill Castro in whatever way they thought was best. Roselli declined the money and said he'd do the job.
No shit. They're the Bugsy Siegel family. They basically created Las Vegas. They would have, at that time, they would have millions, not just today's money. At that time's money, they would have millions of dollars. They don't need 150,000. This way they can say, you know what, I'll do it for free, but government owes me.
For free. Contacting mob operatives in Cuba, the Vegas mob attempted to poison Castro with cyanide pills loaded into his drinks. Yet the mob assassin failed several times throughout 1960 to get close enough to Castro to succeed. After the multiple failures, the CIA ran out of patience and turned the job over to a doctor named Anthony Verona, who, due to professional connections, had a much better chance of getting close to the ever more wary dictator. Yet even after being paid $11,000 or $93,000 in today's dollars, Verona quit after the disastrous Bay of Pigs invasion. Poison pills seemed like a good idea to the CIA though, and shortly after the mob failed, the CIA launched Operation Mongoose with the goal of recruiting and training Cuban exiles to become secret agents inside Cuba. In what would have seemed to be the absolute jackpot for the CIA, agents managed to recruit one of Castro's former girlfriends, a woman named Marita Lorenz. With overnight access to his home, Marita seemed like a sure bet, and the CIA quickly began training her in the use of cyanide tablets, lethal within 30 seconds.
Can this get any more James Bondish? Damn, this is heavy. Girlfriend's going to kill him, okay.
Of ingestion, Marita returned to Cuba and reconnected with Castro, staying the night at his home. Yet, as she went for the pills, she realized they had dissolved into the jar of cold cream she stored them in and were completely unusable. Suffering a crisis of conscience, or perhaps afraid because of Castro's suspicions, Marita confessed the plot to Castro, who immediately began to rage, yet not against Marita, but against the U.S. Per a 1993 interview with Vanity Fair, Castro then grabbed a .45 caliber pistol and put it in her hands, telling her that she couldn't kill him. He was right. Marita dropped the gun and stayed the night with Castro,
what a pimp.
leaving in the morning and never returning. Despite repeated failures, the CIA is nothing if not persistent. Once more going back to the drawing board, they struck upon another of Castro's weaknesses, his love of taking frequent morning ocean swims. Well known for attending a private beach for his swims, the CIA came upon the idea of infiltrating that beach with U.S. Special Forces the night before and placing sabotaged seashells along the sand. Each seashell would conceal a small...
This is all just too much, man. This is too cartoonish. Damn. This brings me to that thought. There are lots of people who just says like, government did this, government did that. Government is so strong. Government is storing aliens somewhere. Government can hide anything. And that, that Hollywood hype that people are so afraid of, those, basically, not people, just, they are just having all these conspiracy theories like government can do anything. Government has lots of things. Government is constantly doing this, doing that. And they make out government to be like such a strong power. But then again, there are lots of people who worked in the government at some point but now retired. Also, lots of, I don't know, smart people, I guess. They were former scientists or something. All of them goes like, have you even worked for government? Governments are not competent. They are really incompetent. I mean, if they were hiding some secret, like if the moon landing was fake, just some clerk from some desk would have leaked it out. I mean, it's impossible for anybody who works in the government to keep quiet. I mean, industry, private sector does that. They are really good at that. Government is not. So people always say that government can do anything. No, the government is really incompetent, whether it's US government or any government. So this signifies that, like, damn, really, CIA couldn't kill Fidel Castro, USA couldn't kill Fidel Castro. But when I think about all that, yeah, it makes sense. They're really incompetent in the end, because it's not far-fetched to think that whenever they try to do some plot, one of their own people leak the information to Fidel Castro, because they are that damn incompetent. They are not efficient, man. I mean, I'm constantly coming to this fact, like, couldn't they use just some sniper? I mean, I don't care how powerful Fidel Castro was. He can't just monitor every single building that in the block that he goes to. So, CIA couldn't just hire somebody who just in the distance in some building can just shoot with a gun and just run away. And even if he get caught, I mean, I don't know, that he can just deny that he's from USA or something. I mean, that might be one of the naive thing I say, but I mean, that is still possible than doing all of this. This is all feels like, cartoonish, Dick Dastardly moves.
Amount of explosives, and exploding them all together would hopefully neutralize the dictator no matter where he chose to sunbathe. The idea garnered enough serious attention that tests were conducted.
You can kill JFK with a sniper, but you can't kill Fidel Castro with a sniper, really?
On a Virginia beach, but lacking in explosive power, the entire idea was deemed completely impractical. Yet undeterred, the CIA came upon another seashell idea. What if instead of numerous seashells, just one big one? With Castro's known love of scuba diving, the CIA proposed painting one large seashell in exotic colors and hiding explosives within. Luring Castro's attention, the seashell could then be remotely detonated when he came close enough. Ultimately, this idea was also regarded as impractical, with no guarantee Castro would notice this particular seashell amongst the thousands littering Cuba's beaches. They say the pen is mightier than the sword, but could it potentially be lethal? American novelist Ernest Hemingway had owned property in Cuba since 1940.
Lots of ideologies and massive wars. Even the revolutions has happened because somebody used a pen. So yeah, pen is lethal in that way.
And spent most of his time there until his death in 1961. Shortly after Hemingway's suicide, his widow floated the idea of using the farm as a staging ground to kill Castro. As a huge fan of Hemingway's work, Castro had already visited what had become a shrine to the late author, with his widow noting that Castro seemed to have little security with him when he visited. The CIA carefully considered the offer, and despite the apparent advantages it offered, ultimately rejected the idea. While no official reason was given, perhaps the CIA feared, rightfully so, the backlash of using the home of one of the most acclaimed novelists of the 20th century to commit.
Yeah, this is all too theatrical. They can't do that. That would have global consequences, man. People will be pissed off regardless of who Fidel Castro was. I mean, this is heavy. Obviously, nowadays people can just use the drone, but even that is too theatrical.
Commit an assassination. From exploding cigars to seashells to poisoned pills and former lovers, the CIA clearly has no shortage of imagination when it comes to nefarious plots. Yet Castro would go on to defy every attempt made on his life and ultimately pass away of old age, in a way defeating his former rivals at the most powerful intelligence agency in the world. Have you heard any other crazy?
This just tells me that people are right. Government are incompetent, all agencies. It's just that Hollywood hypes the government up to a degree that people have these conspiracy theories. In the end, it's just all bullshit. Government can't do jack shit, man. Because I don't believe this for a second. You can kill JFK with a sniper. You can't kill Fidel Castro. You are incompetent, man. There is no excuse. I mean, USA, CIA, are you kidding me? The level of resources and money they have, they couldn't kill a leader of Cuba. Come on, man. Alright, this was a good video. Only good video I could find about this topic, I guess. That is ridiculous. Not many people have, checked this topic. Only Sam and infographics. Every other is just normal history videos, I guess, from the History Channel or something like that. Alright people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out other reactions I did. There's a link in the description. Check out the cards for the playlist. Check out the end cards. And I'll see you next time.